All right, we good to go? Rock and roll? Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order and let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Well, I'm gonna go through the roll call real quick here. Marty is here, Tom Shaner is here, John Barry's here, Peggy Hall, Ed Hedges and Sharon Corty, who is here for her last meeting. Yeah. And then, is Alan online?
She said he was.
Not yet. Okay, just let me know when he is and then we'll ask to get him added. Okay. So are there any public comments?
Do not have anybody signed up.
All right, so we're all good. Okay, so we have a little backlog of meeting minutes that we have to go through. And if we start with the March 14th meeting minutes, were there any changes anybody wanted to see to that?
I have none.
None.
This is Marty.
John
Okay.
Barry, none.
Okay. All right.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the March 14th meeting minutes.
If that motion was made by Marty,
John Barry, second.
thank you. We're going to try to be better, George, about helping
Give
you
you
out with
names.
that. Yeah. Okay, so any discussion on the minutes? Call the vote.
Aye, Marty.
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. All right, now our lovely April 11th meeting minutes have a lot of changes because we weren't very diligent and the microphones weren't great about picking up who was making what motion. So I'm just going to go through, Georgia, if you want to take note, on 7B, the motion was made by Mr. Steinbeck and seconded by Mr. Hedges.
And Georgia, she's got all these written down,
I do.
but just for the record.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and then let's.
Okay, thank you.
Let's move ahead to, let's see. 7D. The motion was made by Mantenfeld, seconded by Hedges. F on the Stroll magazine, it was Marty made the motion with no second. And then the refrigerator magnets were made by Mantenfeld and seconded by Hedges. And on the H, the budget discussion, motion was made by Ms. Hall, seconded by Hedges. And 8A was Mantenfeld for the motion and the second was Hedges. And on B, the dewatering, the motion was by Mr. Steinbeck and Mr. Barry was the second. And then the last one on there was for 9. It was motion by me, Hall, and seconded by Mantenfeld. So with all those changes, does anybody have any other edits for the minutes? All
No.
right. Let's call a motion.
Move to approve the April 3rd minutes.
April 11th,
April 11th,
as amended.
amended.
as amended.
I second it.
Okay, that was by Ed and seconded by Sharon. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. And then lastly, oh, I didn't even talk about the April 3rd workshop minutes. Were there any changes to that?
I did not have any.
All right.
It's Marty. No.
Okay, call a motion on that, please.
I make a motion to approve the April 3rd workshop minutes. This is Marty.
I second. John Barry.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So on
All right.
the ones.
I'll have to
signed
sign those and I'll
at
get those
the
to
end.
you there.
Perfect. Thank you, Peggy.
Okay. All right, we are going to move into the financial report.
At 6.
You're at 6A. We're cruising, man.
Okay, nice. Yes.
Discussion, I've got.
Questions, comments, funny stories?
This is Ed. I passed out a slight variation of this. The numbers really are the same, but it shows the transfers from the 23 unspent budget, which are now audited and
Yay.
they're included later. And then, so it shows that we have a fund surplus of $236,000 once those transfers and the 100,000 that we approved for ponds earlier in the fund balance. Just to kind of know, better gauge where we're at
Mhm.
with our unassigned.
Yeah, appreciate that.
The other, I guess, kind of clarification is I split the operating fund line items with the capital line items. And it's really I spent a lot of time trying to understand all the budgeting and everything, and I think I'm getting a better handle on some of it, but the operating ones were funded through our assessments last year. All the capital line items were on a list of, they weren't funded. So this shows where we're at from the categories that were in the operating budget that everybody has, and then our unfunded capital projects, which a lot of those were duplicative things that were in the O&M budgets and that. But the only thing that we've really spent money on this year is the road improvements. And Dean and I were working, and Laura's made some transfers under safety and security into a capital line item and moved some of those charges down there, 123,000 from road maintenance to the capital, which was unfunded. And we still have the Brino resurfacing. That's about 50,000 that will come in. That should go to that. And there's, probably some other charges. So that's kind of an unfunded line item, in our budget, that we need to try to address how we're going to fund those capital items. I would suggest that our budget had a $200,000 contribution to capital reserves for this year. And if you see, once they did the 200,000
I'm
transfer,
sorry, wasn't it 350?
we're talking 24.
24, okay, thank
24,
you.
the 24 budget. And once they made the audit transfers, we have a little over 3 million in our capital reserve account. So I would recommend, and I probably so move, that we transfer or adjust, whatever the proper term is, to not move the funding, the 200,000 to fund the capital reserves, to move that 200,000 to the capital roadway budget to fund those capital roadway improvements
Are you,
in the 24 budget.
you want to talk that budget now, or do you just want to go over the
Yeah.
financials and jump on that later?
Well, that, to me, that's part of this financial. I don't know.
Well,
what's a
He's
Talking about making the change,
Talking
talking about making the change for fiscal 24.
So Ed, I'm a little confused.
Okay,
I thought the mill and resurfacing of the 2 roads that we did this year were not to be capital, that they were O&M.
Those are capital projects. Those are classified as capital projects.
They were originally charged to the O&M line item, but they the Diamante was, along with some others, was journaled out to a capital line item in our O2 budget. Is there?
Okay, so they do not appear twice in the ledger then? As
Correct.
O&M
No.
and capital?
Correct.
so what you're saying is for the 2024 budget, you'd like to take the 200,000 that would have been moved to reserves.
Right? No, that on the top, this 200,000 was the 23 contribution to capital reserves. That's now reflected, and we have 3 million in
Okay.
capital reserves currently. The 24 budget had another 200,000 funding of capital
Yep,
reserve,
I see it down
but
there.
we didn't fund any of
That,
the capital road
I'm looking at
improvements.
two.
okay,
This one.
So I'm suggesting that we, rather than funding take the 200,000 and the 24 budget that we were going to fund, add to capital reserve, but transfer that down to
Transfer
the
that now.
capital. Pardon me?
Transfer that to 200,000 now, because that
Now.
transfer does not typically occur until the end of the fiscal year.
Right.
So
So to do that transfer now so that we have funded
And
the
that would,
capital road improvements.
and then so we would be keeping this as our capital reserve.
We'd keep our 3 million capital reserve.
Mhm.
I just wanted, yeah, it's a paper transfer.
It's just a,
Yeah.
basically.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay, do you want to make a motion
So
to
the new
do?
guy has a point of order.
Yes,
Should you approve the financial statement and then treat that as a separate motion?
there's no need to approve it. This is just a reporting mechanism
Okay,
for
thank you.
staff to.
Thank
the-
Good
the
question.
feedback. Yeah, that was a good question.
We're still learning all that. The
Yeah.
I'm
rules.
we don't like the rules, but we're doing. Okay. So were there any other questions on the financial report before we take up a motion to make that movement? It's becoming clear. The mud is thinning,
It's watered down.
watering, yeah. so
I've spent a lot of hours trying to
Oh, man.
filter the mud.
Okay.
I guess the other thing I would point out, I highlighted on this, we're 58%, I think it is, through the year as of the end of April. Landscaping, is fairly significantly under budget year to date,
Mhm.
and so is the operating expenses. So there's some, potential
Right.
surpluses there as we go, but we
Yeah,
may
when
use
we
some of
get to
those
the
up this
budget,
year.
I actually had a conversation with Mark, so I can share what he indicated. So, okay. Any other comments?
Nope, it's good.
All right, so then I will let you, Ed, make a motion, how you would like to have it worded.
I'd move that we, in for the 24 budget, that we transfer the $200,000 for funding of capital reserve and transfer that to the safety and security line item for road, I forget exactly, capital roadways, I think is what it's called in the safety and security.
I second.
Okay, so Ed was the one that made the motion and then John Barry seconded.
Okay.
I'm gonna be sure, I'm not gonna
That's
get
good.
caught again. Um,
So you want 100% to go to that.
Just so I
Given
understand
that's
correctly,
what-
so I understand correctly. We are not gonna put the $200,000 in capital at the end of the year. You're gonna instead put that $200,000 against the capital roadways for safety and security.
This was for 24.
I understand that. We're talking 24.
I understand that. We're talking 24.
Okay.
So
Yes.
it's-
But that's
so
what
if
you're
there's
asking
a
for,
surplus-
correct?
That's what you're asking for, correct?
Yes,
Correct.
correct. So if there's a surplus of that line item at the end of the year, the money will just go back into the reserve fund.
Right. But then they'll have the money in their operations budget to deal with.
If there's money left over, it goes back to safety and security.
If that's,
Correct.
if that's how this committee
Right.
chooses, yes.
This, they're gonna be a big spend in the next couple of years, so I'm okay with that. Okay.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, call the vote. Sharon, would you like to start us?
I agree. I approve. Yeah.
Yes, Ed.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Marty, nay.
Thank you, Marty. Yeah. Okay, it has passed. And so we are good with our financial report for now. We'll pick up more of the scintillating conversation come budget. Doug, do you want to come up and give us a ponds subcommittee update?
different report in the last few days with all this running.
I was kind of hoping we
Are you
wouldn't have to
outfit?
dewater.
Are you getting your pond pumped down?
Oh, yes. Doug Zanner, I'm the head of the Pelican Preserve Pond Subcommittee. Pond, that's the first thing there. The restoration project was supposed to begin on Monday. Needless to say, the banks are over the maximum. It'll take, there's no way it'll begin on Monday. My wife and I did distribute door hangers on all the homes affected that are on the bank that's going to be restored. So there's that front page is just a definition or explanation of what we're doing. And the back page has a lot of the gateway phone numbers and stuff if they have any questions to go through customer service. They were all handed out to all the affected homes. I have met with both HOA presidents, and so we should be we're ready to go on Monday of next week, but it's going to take a while to pump the water down with the submersible pump. It's going to take, I don't know how long, but.
You think they'll just maybe wait until it goes down a little bit more?
No,
naturally?
well, I don't know if they'll, the thing is we're, the longer we wait, by the end, it'll be into next year's budget year. I'll have the problem with the end of September, that it'll have a $300,000 expense that is not spent. But yes,
I vote no.
I don't know how that will work yet. I don't know how quickly this impacts their schedule, but that's where it is. I was getting probably, I don't know how many, but a lot of complaints about the pond water level in the ponds being low and all the muck floating on top of it. And the last 2 days, I've got just as many complaints from the same people of the banks are, they're afraid it's coming into their lanai type thing. So it's amazing how a few days can 180 change everything. But the ponds look beautiful. That you can, it's grass to grass, and most of the floating debris is at the bottom because that's what it needed to dissolve. And we didn't have to use more chemicals to do that. So that's that's the status there. The only other thing, Bob Gebhardt gives me a hard time about where's those 4-foot fountains when you come in, 4-foot high fountains when you come in. The parts have been back ordered for a while to be able to put the pumps in and the color things for those fountains so that you already approved a few meetings ago. The only other thing I do want to, because I will be talking to CDD, supposedly there, you can explain it, Chelsea, better than me about the Tetra Tech on all projects and stuff. If you want.
Yeah, I can do it real quick. So a couple meetings ago, the Board of Supervisors has weighed in and said that any engineering that occurs within the district, that Tetra Tech needs to be involved. And so Tetra Tech did the original design of this pond bank restoration, the Pelican Way. And so it typically on what we would ask of Tetra Tech is we need a task authorization for inspection services and construction administration services. And so that task authorization was like $39,000 for both of those services. It's a not to exceed number. It is not a lump sum number. And
And
so,
that's outside of the initial.
yes,
40.
ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
ma'am.
would be 80K. If you add all the task authorizations, the two before, plus this one would be around 80K.
Yeah.
Ballpark number.
So that task authorization will be going to the board. I was waiting on Doug to give your guys' input, but it'll be going to the board next Thursday, waiting for your guys' recommendation on how to proceed. But that was the board direction that Tetra Tech has to be involved. Now, do you need them there at the hours that they've proposed? That's for you to dictate. So that could reduce the number. That's, again, totally up to you. But there is a technical aspect of, there are submittals that the contractor has to provide that have to be signed off of exactly what they're putting in the ground. There's pay apps that have to be approved, quantities that have to be quantified. So there is some technical aspect of the project that has to be, that I would strongly recommend that they be involved. Do I think our staff are capable and competent of doing it? Absolutely. But the board direction was to use the engineering firm for engineering type services. So that is what we're presenting.
And from my standpoint as a president, I haven't had a meeting to vote. But my standpoint is that I'm going forward for lack of a better term, ask for an exception to this for this project. The project is already significantly over budget with the bid process, plus if you throw that in there. So my recommendation is to ask for an exception to this so that Chelsea, because I do agree with her that with the staff, with Daniel and his group, and with our our group. We have quite a bit of experience in this. We've done this type of project for 6 years, bank restoration with this technology. Chelsea's recommendation was to cut that down to only be a part of that task authorization. There's, I think, two different parts, and to look at only doing the one and getting them to do it significantly less. I just want an exception from, and that's why I'm going to ask CDD for it, because I don't feel comfortable approving another more money for something that we've done over 6 years. And the fact
Let me-
that I have a lot of faith. Yes,
Let me chime in for just a second. Can
Yeah,
you
go
hear me
ahead,
okay?
Bob. Yeah.
Part of what is driving the change is the fact that, and I won't use all the technical, but when we bid out Pond 36, we had a full expectation to be able to do that for 200,000. The reality of it was, once we got into the process of using the district bid system, it got to 300,000. So what I have asked the board for, and so far we have support, is to do a deep dive research as to why using the bid system that the district wants increased our cost 50%. So we are still researching that. We are going to try to get back to the way we used to call the Pelican way of bidding things. And Tony is rewriting the requirements. And we're not there yet, but we're pursuing that path as we move forward.
If I
Okay,
can chime
you-
in really
yeah.
quick. So he's not necessarily rewriting the requirements. He's reviewing them to make sure that we meet the Florida statutes that we're required to abide by,
And
and
only,
paring that down to make this a more simple process. Now, there are different requirements if it's a repair and maintenance or if it's a true construction. This project was considered construction because you're changing the material of what is out there. So he's working on the general conditions for those two different types. There will be training sessions that he will be doing for the board for both CCNA, which is the Competitive Consultants Negotiation Act, as well as the procurement chapter, Florida statute that we have to abide by.
so
So
that does not change what we are dealing with.
that is a requirement of the district, period.
I was just going to say the things that Bob talked about, we went through the bid process. We aren't changing anything in the current Pond 36 restoration, okay? So some of the things Bob and Chelsea just talked about are down the road for future things. All I care about is Pond 36 and what we need to do to complete that.
And
Okay,
with the
and all I'm
engineering,
asking for is to CDD, not because they're the ones that put the restriction in place or the thing in place, is that I do not want to do that, to spend even another $20,000 for something that we have, in the last 6 years, we have not done. Now, if there's something legal that, like you said, Chelsea, if there's something legally we have to do from the state standpoint, that's different. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't need their assistance, Tetra Tech's assistance, to complete this project. Okay?
Question. So is this Tetra Tech a requirement of the district or is it a recommendation of the
I
district?
think it's a requirement, and it's not the district, it was CDD board that put this in place. It wasn't Chelsea that put that in place. Okay?
But it's the board has a
The
requirement.
board has set a policy.
Yeah, a policy, but I call it a requirement, and that's why I want to go to an exception, because I don't think it's, that's just my opinion. And if I need a formal vote from the subcommittee to say we would not recommend that, we come back to you with our recommendation, and then you go and give your recommendation, and then the board would vote on it. But I'm just asking for an exception, so we don't have to do those two steps.
will this extend your time frame?
Well, I think the level of the water in the pond will more expend. No, I don't think it'll extend time frame. I just think it'll increase the budget. That's all. We'll still complete the project with or without Tetra Tech. We complete the project. It's not like some of the other things that delayed with some of the reports.
And you've got all the material counts and everything, so you guys can do
We
that.
got the material counts, got the number of feet on the bank, yes, we have everything, and so does the vendor. Okay. Any
So
other
So you need
questions?
you need a motion?
No. I'm going to do it whether I get a motion here or not, so.
Would you
Well, I
appreciate?
mean,
support?
it's not your, it's my opinion that I want an exception, and you didn't even know that exception was in there, Marty.
So
It's just the board will be weighing in on this
Right,
item next
that's all.
Thursday.
Okay.
So if PPAC wants to provide a recommendation to the board, they can.
I'd
Which
like
I
to make
would-
a recommendation that PPAC recommend to the Board of Supervisors that we do not use Tetra Tech in the restoration of Pond 36.
I second it.
This is Marty that
No,
made the
that-
motion.
Okay.
Mark.
You don't want to do that, folks. You don't want to do that. We have historically used P-PAC. P-PAC did all of our earlier stuff. I mean, Tetra Tech. You're getting too far into the weeds. Let the board handle what we need to do to streamline the process and save us money.
Bob, he only said Pond 36
36.
restoration. He didn't say, all of them from now on. He just said on this one
project.
project and this one CE and I, part of it.
Well, what I want to make sure you understand. Is not because we're using Tetra Tech. It's because we changed the requirements. Tetra Tech did all of our work and they've done an outstanding job for us. We changed the requirements. Let the board fix this.
I agree.
So do you believe it would have any value to have us weigh in? Bob?
It's nothing negative to it, but it goes beyond Pelican because Gateway Greens is of the same ilk as we are. It's more just information to be aware of. We don't want to continue to waste money on projects, and we're going to try and, despite the words that Chelsea uses, streamline, modify language, whatever you want to call it. We're going to get back to make it simpler.
We have a motion and a second. Do we want to call the vote and see where we end up?
Marty, say yay.
Tom's a yay.
Yay.
Yay?
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Save money.
Chelsea, what would the policy change to have would it affect our road resurfacing projects?
Those I would consider as more. It's honestly whatever the board decides. I don't foresee them to impact the road resurfacing because it's a mill and overlay.
Right.
There's really not any engineering that goes into that. It's a take it off and put it back.
Right.
You're not changing material or any of that. So that I would consider as a maintenance part.
Okay.
Capital for budgeting purposes, but maintenance for the
Didn't they
project.
have to do some density though? I know in Avila, I thought they had that, there was quite a bit of engineering expense for that. To do the engineering to make
Yeah,
sure.
we
that-
just haven't on the last two. It's just
Okay.
been a mill and resurface.
All right, that's all I have.
right.
Anything of me?
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you. Good luck on keeping the ponds
Yeah.
clean.
The water out of the homes. That's.
Keep the ponds in the banks.
Right. Um,
That took a second. That's funny.
yeah. All right, we'll go on to landscape. As Mark had indicated at the President's Council this morning. there were-
We got it.
Yeah, yeah, he was very happy about that. 300 new plants installed. And then they've started the painting, and they're using our tech, our maintenance tech, through the CDD. So he said it was going to take some time. And they are also working out the details for the new contract for landscaping that will go out to bid for an October start. Is that right?
That's a pushing it, but that's it. That's our goal.
Okay, all right. All
I
right.
love the optimism.
Yeah, and the other thing that Mark had indicated is that he does believe he's going to have a surplus this year within his operations side. And so if we need to be doing any movement on that, we can talk about that a little bit more. Yeah, wait till after hurricane season. Okay,
So are you representing the landscape subcommittee now?
I guess I did just because I sat next to Mark at the.
Okay, this is Marty. I have a comment.
Okay.
So if you look at the front of the buildings, when you're coming into Pelican Preserve, the white color is at the top. And then the darker color follows. current way they're painting the monuments, they're
Yeah.
putting the dark color on top and not the white color. It's opposite. So it doesn't look like the entryway. It's opposite.
I would say that's a great thing to just send to Mark to ensure that that's intentional, but I know that they were trying to do some changes. So,
New
Okay,
look, maybe a new look.
yeah, they had gotten some pushback, so maybe they're trying to tweak it, but. All right,
well, I did send an email about it to Daniel.
to Daniel, okay.
Have not heard back from Daniel.
Daniel is off on his military service for 3 days or something like that, right? Daniel's
Sorry.
gone until.
Yeah,
next
he'll be
week.
back next week.
Yeah.
Monday.
So that might be. why.
So I did send an email to Daniel. I have had no response from Daniel regarding the flipped colors.
Okay,
On
The monument set,
Vin- Vincenza,
actually it was,
the clubhouse.
no, it was in Monticello.
okay,
Well, before you get to Monticello.
I know, they probably got stopped by the rains.
Well, I stopped and talked to the two painters. And I told them that the colors were opposite of the building out, the security building, where the white color is on the top of the facade, and then the darker color follows. Well, they painted it with the dark color on top and the lighter color below it.
I'll make
Which
sure
is-
Daniel to follow up with.
it
You send
is
him an
like-
email?
I did send them an email.
And I'll check with.
It
them.
is opposite of when you drive in Pelican Preserve Boulevard and you look at the big sign that says Pelican Preserve. The white is on the top.
We'll get to the
This
bottom. of it.
this is opposite.
Yeah.
So, the painters just looked at me like,
yeah. Exactly.
everybody? I know.
Yes, most people. Okay. Jeff, you want to
So
talk?
I'm just looking for consistency.
Absolutely, we want to get.
And I
to-
know we have several different types of monuments. So,
Yeah, it's good to find out.
All right,
We'll
Are
find
we
out.
on to,
We're moving on.
Safety?
Jenna's going to actually talk.
I'm gonna
about-
sneak in a
Okay.
quick status on safety and security. This is Jennifer Nisanoff from the Safety and Security Subcommittee. First thing I wanted to talk a little bit about was our access control and security RFP that has gone out.
No.
It has not gone out.
no, it's waiting on the attorney.
Oh, I thought it went through.
Mhm.
all right.
Okay,
Soon to be going on.
soon to be going out. Okay, is there anything we can do to help, or is this just like
No.
just going through
he's-
process?
It's going through the process. Yep, he's got a laundry list of things to do, so.
Okay. well,
Maybe
maybe
he
offline we
doesn't
can
just
talk
make
about
work.
Schedule.
Himself.
I know Bob keeps having meetings with him.
Stop it.
Oh, geez, okay. Well, we have a schedule that we're gonna have to amend, I guess, a little bit. But in our meeting this month, we're gonna do a couple of things. First of all, our experience has been that getting post orders written and going through that process and approved takes a lot longer than you would expect. And with the schedule that we have now, there's very little time for that to occur. So one of the things that we've been talking about was to get a head start on that. The RFP talks about what we want them to do, and the vendor puts in how they're going to do it. So we're going to try to put together a little outline with all the what's in there so that they will be able to just plug in the how they're going to do it based on whatever standard operating procedures they might have. And then we can all get together and make sure that both parties are happy with that. And we're hoping that that's going to cut down the time to get all this completed, because you wouldn't believe how long it takes to get that kind of stuff through the process.
Do they follow the post orders now?
No, not completely. And that is being addressed by Danny Clemens, who's on the committee. And they understand that that is an issue and that if they bid, they need to tell us how they're going to address that.
And
But
you,
no, they
you've
don't.
had them, you guys invited them, right? You've had them at your meetings?
Yeah, oh yeah, they have come to our meetings. And in fact, they're going to do it on a regular basis going forward. So they give us a little status, we give them some feedback, but there are also offline meetings with them about not following the post orders.
Okay, so this is Marty.
Mhm.
We are taking corrective actions then with Wiser to get them to comply with the requirements.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. The other thing we're going to do is make sure that we have some kind of communications plan to make sure the people in the community know what's going on, what the changes are, why they're happening, and what they can expect. Okay, any other questions about that? Okay. We also have quite a backlog of projects that we have on our list, and we actually do have a list now. Daniel started one and he's got it out on SharePoint so that you can all see it. It's basically things that are in progress right now, but we also have a number of items that are about to start and a number of items that we're really looking at as more exploratory. So some examples of exploratory things might be, what are we going to do with road repair? We were talking about road repair. And as you know, we have a pretty comprehensive report from Tetra Tech about the status of our roads. And we need to put together a plan on what we're going to address first, second, and third, not only from a scheduling perspective, but from a cost perspective. So we need to get a small group of people together to really work through that. The other thing we need to do is to get a group of people to talk through FPL and whether we want to convert the lights that we currently own and get fixed to having FPL put them in, own them, be responsible for them. And then we just pay them, I don't know if it's a monthly fee or how that actually works. And what we need to do is put together a business case for that to determine on whether we want to recommend going forward with that or not. As a result of having 2 new people coming on to our team, we think we're going to have enough resources to do that. So looking at a more comprehensive list of all the work items that we want to get through, the other thing that we're going to do at our next meeting is to go through that list and make sure we have leads for each of those projects, as well as at least a high-level idea of how we're going to go forward with it. Is it something that we're going to actually do? Is it an exploratory project? Is it a recommendation type of project? So we're hoping that we're going to be able to get through some of this stuff a little bit faster. Any
This
questions?
is Marty.
Yes.
I thought the district was supposed to supply us an economic overview on how much it's costing us to maintain the lights now.
That's going to be part, I believe, of this whole project of let's find out what it costs today, what it would cost if we change modus operandi and see.
I'm sorry, I thought we've already asked for that.
No, FPL offered to do something with that and
Yes.
we preempted that by saying we wanted to engage first on our side, as I recall.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I know Gateway has moved forward, so we'll be able to glean some
Right.
cost saving information from you guys, correct?
Yep, so I did get word from Eric from FPNL. They're wrapping up what they offered to you all free, which was basically design cost of what would be tree line, Pelican Preserve Boulevard.
They're wrapping up.
Cypress.
Yes.
Cypress, pardon?
They're wrapping up.
He offered to plug in design free of charge, and then that way you guys would be able to gauge the actual cost of construction, because without knowing how many poles it's going to take, it's hard to gauge that. So he offered to do that free of charge, and that should be coming in the next month or so. It'll go to safety and security first and then work its way up to you guys.
Because I had thought that we were going to engage them before design.
No, he offered that because
To
you guys
you
were
guys.
asking how much is this going to cost, and he said without going through actual design they can't estimate that. So he said they do it free of charge, and they would present those findings and costs to you all.
We just may reject their design.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. It seems like we're.
Yeah.
But he had to give us, had to have something.
Right.
Because otherwise,
Yes.
cost on how many light posts and what we're gonna
Yeah.
have.
Well,
So if we don't give them an
I
idea.
suppose this digs us in at some point and we
Yeah.
can react.
Well,
Mhm.
this is Marty. From their FP&L's last presentation, if I remember correctly, they're also talking about using concrete poles.
That was on the district side. That was not on the Pelican side. He was told to match what you guys currently have out there
Mhm.
Okay.
when contemplating this design.
Okay.
Right.
On the Gateway side, we've gone to concrete. It's cheaper. And most people don't realize most of the poles out there are already concrete.
So it might be something to consider if the costs are,
Mhm.
Substantially.
yeah.
Yeah.
As long as they don't look like concrete poles.
Yeah.
They do.
They do.
Anything else?
going back to your original comment about the security, are you thinking that the delay we're encountering currently is going to conflict with the end of our contract with our security company?
It'll run over. So we'll probably have to do a month to month with the current security company until it's time to.
And
if
that's
it- if-
provided for in our contract, correct?
I have to double check that. So, but I'm sure that they'd be willing to continue the services a month to month. We just have to approach them, considering it's taken some time to review the RFP docs.
This is Marty.
Okay, thanks.
So where do we stand with upgrading the technology and getting more cameras at the gatehouse?
We've approved getting more we've approved getting the camera inside the gatehouse for the blind spot. I don't think we've, oh, it was already done. It's been, okay, and it's done.
Stop.
For the external ones, if I recall correctly, that was at our last meeting and we did not have a quorum, so we couldn't approve it. So it's being brought forward to the next meeting this month.
And who's responsible for the maintaining the technology at the guardhouse, specifically the printer?
That should be the vendor.
'Cause
Printer of what?
They have a
Anything,
printer out there.
any supplies that is part of them doing their job, it's their responsibility to maintain.
Okay, they have a printer out there that has been broken for several months.
And we have continuously told them that it is their boss's responsibility to replace that. So we can relay that information up the chain and I can let them know.
Okay. This is Marty. So have we evaluated automating the front gate?
When you say automating, what do you mean by automating?
Having a
Has-
person remotely
Oh,
only at the gate. Where you
Oh,
put in your driver's license to a reader, the person remotely
Yeah.
can see that driver's license. A person can remotely open the gate for the vehicle.
as far as I know, we have not evaluated. that.
Stony Brook has, they're evaluating it right now, but they're only considering it for the night shift. And I've talked briefly, not in length with the attorney, and he's open to it as long as you can't require them to just show the driver's license. If I show up at 3 AM, I'm not required to, it's a public road. As long as they have a number that I can call and somebody can let me in. It's cumbersome, but they're still not denied access.
without a light.
If they didn't want to submit
If they didn't want to provide their driver's license.
So there's a development off of Daniels, Cypress, something or other,
Mhm.
and they don't have a person at the guardhouse. You pull up to the gate
Mhm.
and there's a sensor and somebody speaks out of a box. You put your driver's license in, they make a copy of the driver's license. You go in there for your little bus trip or whatever that you're going to. So
Worth looking into, I would
You have
say.
more flexibility if you're a private road.
I don't know if they're a private road.
Yeah,
Set at that gate, waiting for that voice.
Oh, yeah, sometimes it can be really poor. Wait.
Hmm.
And they're just looking at that for off hours.
Yes.
That is new information that literally came about over the last month.
So this is Marty again.
okay.
How many vendors are we looking at to go out to bid to?
We don't select vendors, we put it out and they can bid on on what we have out there. We don't say, hey, you give me a quote, you give me a quote, you give me a quote. We put it out there and anybody who signed up to receive those.
Hopefully the right person picks it up.
Well, we can notify them in advance. Like I would give a courtesy to our current vendors prior to it going out. But once it's out on the street, everybody's under the cone of silence.
Thank you. This is Marty. No further questions.
Thank you, Marty.
That's all I think.
Okay.
You got a chuckle out of Bob.
Jen, have you looked at all, or have you talked to Bob Gephardt about the trailer and? Okay.
Yes.
So
Yep.
do you want to talk about that a little bit, or so we can maybe deal with it at this point, or?
Sure. Apparently there is, well, we've got this is for the street, the power washer. Yeah, we've got the power washer and it's ready to be used, but unfortunately we can't necessarily get it over to Pelican Preserve with the current, the trailer. I don't remember what it's called, kabuki or something. Huh?
Swirly and a
A
caboose.
swirly. And so there are options out there about, can we just use it from, I think it was June through September and keep it on site or close to being on site, like either over at the golf course or maybe near the access road. So there are a lot of different options there. There are also discussions going on apparently about what's the long-term solution. Do we want to get a trailer for it? Do we want to have it hauled by a truck? The truck apparently that they have right now may not be necessarily in the best working conditions, so we might have to buy a new one. So there are a lot of things going on right now. Basically, the net out of it is we're not using it.
Right.
And that's a problem because we paid a nice amount of money for that. So we do have to work through that.
So from my conversations, this is Peggy, we did have a lot of discussion on what's the next steps for this, and I think having a trailer and the tanks to go with it is probably the next best sensible thing to do. We do have transportation for now. It might not be the best, and we have time to go through and understand more for the future on how it would get trailered, but it would make sense to me to move this forward with procuring a trailer with the tanks.
Is there any formal documentation out there on this so that we know this is what we're going to be doing, this is how much it's going to cost, especially compared to maybe some of the other options, at least short-term
Yeah,
options? I understand what you're saying,
this-
is longer term.
This is Bob, if I can climb in. I've had conversation with Daniel and the generation of the idea of the trailer and the reservoir tank on it came from him. He assures me it can be purchased immediately. It's got to be ordered for under $20,000. So we're looking for a $20,000 commitment in the 24 budget to do this, whether it comes out of capital funds or Laura and he can find some other place to do it. But this will at least get us operational. For the future, we'll determine what it takes, whether it's going to take a specific vehicle or whether we can share a vehicle with a district or whether we can park it somewhere close to the community, as Jennifer said. They're TBDs. But if we can get the 20,000 moving, at least we can start doing it.
How long would it take us to actually sit down and think through a very short-term sort of plan, like all the alternatives that we might have in the short term and how much they would cost? Because I don't have a feel for whether 20,000 is a lot of money, it sounds like a lot of money to me, because it's on top of what we've already spent. So I'm just curious, what can we do to look to see, are there other alternatives that we might have that might cost a little bit less for the short term? And what is the definition of short term? Is that anything that's been discussed, Bob?
Yeah,
Or
that
whomever?
was the purpose. Yeah, that was the purpose of the meeting with Daniel Potter. And this was and he had his team there. And that was the best short-term resolution because at least it gives us a methodology of transporting the equipment from the district over to Pelican.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah, I
more
understand how
facets
it
to this,
works.
like gauges to tap into fire hydrants, and we can get one for Gateway, but we got to figure out what it's going to take. So there's still a lot more to be done.
Right.
But at least if we needed to pressure wash, getting him the trailer and the reservoir, we can do it. We can start.
Okay,
Quest is up to 20. I don't anticipate us spending the full 20. A trailer's a little less than 10.
Okay. All right.
And I think, one of the biggest concerns is leaving it out in the elements or, where to have a place for it to sit. And Bob's been having discussions with our friends at the golf club. And that's why the summer, when it slows down, is really, they'd be willing to work with us and store it over there because it's going to take time to load it, haul it, trailer it, etc. So logistically, we know where we're going to get the water from. We'll have to have 2 staff there for safety purposes. We just got to get it over there. And then instead of from hauling, we don't think the city of Fort Myers is going to let us use their water. So we'll have to pull from one of our hydrants in New Pelican. We'll have a meter on it. Pelican will pay for that water usage. And that's what the reservoir is for, is to haul back and forth that water. Because going from Old Pelican to New is a hike.
Yeah.
when you say Pelican, that would be PPCA paying for that
Yeah.
water? Or
this
this,
out of our.
this budget?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I just wanted to,
So this is
Sure.
Marty. I have another question. Why don't we use pond water?
I
You
don't know
can't.
that you,
You
I
can't,
don't think
period.
you
Why?
can.
And it's dirty, that's the
This
other
is
part.
part of-
It would screw up the washer. But legally, you can't
Filtering.
take pond water out for anything.
Well, we water our
You really
lawn with
wouldn't
it.
want to.
That's, that's through a permit. We don't have a permit to just pull and use it as pressure.
So in order to use the ponds, we would have to request a permit.
And they have some kind of a filtering. Yeah. I mean, that could be something for a future discussion as well, but. I mean, it's not gonna help us this year.
Doug's got too much water now.
This is Ed. I would move that we allocate the expenditure of up to $20,000 to buy a trailer with a water storage tank. And it should be charged against the capital roadways.
The 200 you just transferred.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So now-
Which is where the swirly and other things got transferred to, so.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll
Is
second
that,
that.
is that Daniel's recommendation too,
Yes.
or can he rent it?
Oh, I mean, you're gonna, by the time you rent a trailer for that extended period of time, you'd be better off buying one. And then you own that asset and then you can use it for anything else that you guys need.
Where are you storing the trailer?
As of right now, the swirly would sit on the trailer at the golf club. And then when we were done pressure washing, we pull it back here
The golf
And
club
tarp
okay
it.
with that?
At this point.
At this point, that's,
Bob, is the
It's-
golf club okay with that?
Yeah, it's either, well, let's not commit to that. It would be on the access road or the golf course or someplace we mutually agree on. But it would stay within the bounds of the community.
So what's the security on the access road? This is Tom.
Only district staff and emergency personnel have
What I
access
mean,
to
if
it.
you're gonna leave something sit there, is there any form of security at all just sitting there? Nobody can get it
always
out
locked.
because the gates are closed.
Always locked, yeah.
Okay.
It's always
I
locked on.
think I see where you're going with that. The gate is locked, but is there anything back there that's locked?
Well, there's a,
The two gates back there.
I mean, could somebody
Locked at
get back
both
there
ends
and
of the
roll it
road.
out?
Right.
We could put a game camera up if that's a concern.
Well, that just shows who took it. Not that it was taken, but
Yeah.
we've done that at our storage lot and we can see it's taken.
Well, that's why we're hoping to be good friends with our golf course friends.
Okay.
But the
Well,
road, the
things are
storage
changing
road
over
is
there.
locked, Tom, both ends. This access
Okay.
road has got security at both ends.
So we've had, Bob Gephardt's gonna pay for it if it gets stolen.
That's what I heard.
No problem.
Yeah.
so
Okay, so-
are we ready to commit this money or do we still need more information maybe from Daniel?
Please commit. so we
I'm
can work.
comfortable.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm
Is there a
comfortable with
second?
it. Is there any other discussion?
Just when is this needed? How fast do you need the trailer? Just
We
going back
could
to
s-
Marty's
well-
question.
Current rain put aside, we could get started at just about any time.
Okay, so having it immediate is a,
It would be a good thing.
all right.
You want your sidewalks pressure washed, don't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
We have
With
a
Marty,
pretty-
we don't even know if we have a
Sidewalk.
truck to pull it yet.
We do.
But they don't know how long it's gonna work,
Yeah.
is what I've heard.
It's an old truck.
15 years old or something.
That's
it may
just
have been completely
District
changed.
truck,
Yes.
used by everybody and
It's an old utilities crane truck, so it has the capabilities of pulling it.
your car has a hitch.
Yep.
It's more, Tom, it's more than just a truck. It's got to be powerful enough like an F-350 because the combination of the trailer, the swirly and the water. If you
Right.
used your car,
Okay.
you'd probably give up that car after you used it.
Hmm.
I have a truck.
All right, we're calling you.
Yeah,
Give a
yeah.
call.
Okay.
It's
Call the question.
rentable.
Other comments?
Question.
Call the question. All right, Marty, how about you start us?
Who seconded?
I think it's
I
already
did.
been second.
Peggy seconded.
Aye.
Tom, I.
John Barry, aye.
Peggy Hall, aye.
And
Sharon and I.
All right,
All right, thank you.
so that worked. Anything else that you need from landscaping?
Safety.
Safety.
Safety and security,
Safety.
excuse me.
So
You could
this is
move that
Laura.
plan.
Confirming that you guys have just approved up to $20,000 for the trailer. We're gonna charge it against capital roadways, and obviously that'll come out of that 200 that you just are gonna move over.
Correct.
Correct.
And
Correct.
and
Okay.
tanks though, not just
Okay.
trailer.
Yep. Okay, yep, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving on to 8A, which is our bond payoff discussion. Last month, we had posed the question of what would it look like if we took the 2013 bond and paid it off from our capital funds or someplace? And what would that do? And I see, Ed, you've already got all this information. All right, go for it.
I started some of this discussion because as I was looking through the finances, I saw that there was money sitting in a couple different funds related to the 2013 bond and started saying, could we actually pay it off? And the bond was earning or costing 5.75%. And, rather than paying that interest for an extended period of time, what could we do? It from my calculations, it would actually, there's a 1.5 million or 1.5 million balance. Next year that would drop, and I've got some of the schedules there that you don't need to really go through, but mid next year in 25, that would drop down to 1.3 million. There's currently excess funds, from what I can tell, in the debt service fund balance of between $200,000 and $250,000, depending on, when you look at it with the interest payments that we have to make biannually. But then there's over 300,000 sitting in the capital project fund balance, which is the bond funds that were never used to finish the construction on Old Pelican. So, but then as I look a little further in the finances, it appears that those, and Chelsea, you can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but that those current funds are invested at about 4.9%. So even though the bond is costing us 5 3/4, or that money that 700,000 or so that's sitting there, or 500,000 or so that's sitting there, is earning almost 5%. So if we were to look at paying it off now, those are the numbers there in the middle of the sheet. It's basically $1 million if we did it in November, maybe about 800,000 if we did it, next spring. As I read the bond document, we could use those funds to pay down the principal, but that would trigger reamortization, wouldn't shorten the life of it. They would still be due in 2033. Or we could hold those funds and continue to earn interest on it. They would grow a little bit, and you could then potentially retire the bonds, 2 or 3, 4 years early, and 29 or 30, depending on how much interest. So, the question is, do we do nothing and just sit here and let those funds sit there and earn a little bit of interest, and then maybe in 2029, in 5 years, look at using those funds to pay off the bonds at that point. Currently, the bond is only assessed to Old Pelican, about half the properties. And these are, depending on whether it's, and I don't quite know which units fall into what categories, but single families get assessed, somewhere between 170 and 260. It's an average about $180 a year per door in Old Pelican.
And then the golf course actually pays.
Yeah, they pay on it. if we used our capital reserves to fund it down, old Pelican and new Pelican have actually paid into that. But as a new Pelican, I'm not being assessed this, but I use all those assets. I use Pelican Boulevard, all the landscaping, the entry gate, all that stuff that was put in on those original bond series. So this is more for informational, I think, for people to know what,
Well, the other
what we
part
wanna
of
do with
this
it,
would
so.
be that, as Carol had
That's
looked
what I
at
was
prior,
thinking. Yeah, that,
um,
those properties.
the
in front.
properties out on Tree Line have some monetary value, and when we were looking at it, it was like $500,000, correct? Each. So I'm assuming it's less now, but if
They're underwater now.
they're lakefront property,
Yes.
Sell them.
I mean, so we could look to sell those off and to put more money back into our reserves if that's
What we
what we
took out.
chose to do.
Yeah, if we paid off the bond,
Right.
that would unencumber all the assets within, and those properties up there, yeah.
And I know one of the guiding principles that I have been taught is that we try to make sure that we are paying today for the things that we're using today, and that we don't pay today what could be 10 years in the future. So I don't know if that makes sense to people, that we don't want to be adding a huge financial burden on people today who may not be in the community in 5-10 years. So to use the whatever we're funding. So I always try to balance that.
So I don't know if I'm out of order, but asking Ed, if at the next meeting, you could come back with a firm recommendation, unless you want to make it now. You've run the numbers, you understand the numbers. I don't mean to put anything on you, but if you could give us guidance and a recommendation.
I'd actually like to have a little bit of time to process this.
Yeah, that's why putting it
Yeah.
out so people could. When I first started this, I wasn't even aware that those funds were out there
Me neither,
in that 300,000 sitting in the capital, bond fund, and there was a surplus in the bond service fund. So, and it's at this point, I'm at a minimum, I would keep it the way it is and then look to pay them off early in 29 or 30, but
Maybe not immediate.
whether or
A
not,
question about your numbers on the reserve funds needed to pay off in May of 2025 is about 800,000. If the properties that you're speaking about at Tree Line and Colonial were the value of 800,000, then it'd be maybe a net wash if we were able to get that money from those properties.
So I'm gonna caveat, let me just caveat.
Nope.
So Ed's a number cruncher, but these numbers have not been vetted through our finance director, who is Stephen Bloom. So if you guys were to take action, prior to you taking action, I would pass this along and have him double check Ed's math.
And-
So his math is mathing.
Okay.
yeah, and most of these came out of the amortization schedules and stuff. What I don't know, and that Stephen would know, is are there costs associated with
Okay.
these bond transactions
Yeah,
and stuff? And
So If
So that's why
that's the
they're-
path you guys wanted to go down,
Yeah.
we would spend some time with Stephen Bloom and have him. look
Can
at
we
that.
have something ready for next meeting?
No,
No.
And I would want to understand how it really impacts exactly old and new, because that's who we have to respond to as the residents. And if it's not gonna, if it's a wash on the old, but it has a negative on the new,
It's going to benefit the old,
right?
and then it's going to be a wash on the new, correct?
the old Pelican would see a reduction in their assessments, because currently the assessment that
Okay, let's do it.
the assessment that we're going to talk about in the next item applies to everybody across Pelican. So if you live in Old Pelican, your current tax, non-ad valorem taxes this amount is added to that. So the people in the estates pay $257 a year more than at New Pelican for their, the assessment. I think some of the condos, it's 60, but the issue becomes if we use the capital reserve dollars to pay this off, those capital reserve dollars have been contributed by both Old and New Pelican. So Old Pelican has contributed about half. New Pelican has contributed about half because it's pretty much a 50-50 between Old Pelican and new number of doors. And being a New Pelican, you know, it's like I'm using all those assets to get to New Pelican that were paid for through this bond. You know, the landscaping, the entry, the monuments, all of that stuff was paid for under these early bonds by Old Pelican. So as a New Pelican resident, I mean, I'm sure some people would question using their money to pay off for the old, but I'm using those. So from my perspective, to use half of this money to come from me is I can rationalize it in my own mind. Whether or not but it would draw down our capital reserves from 3 million to 2.2 million, say. And whether or not because I question whether or not we could even get it done by November. So that's why when I did the numbers, it was maybe in March when we make our interest payment in March, if we wanted to do it.
Marty, I say no because Stephen Bloom works for Infomark and he has multiple CDDs that are all in the middle of budget right now.
Right.
So if this is the direction you guys wanted to go, then we can work towards that, but I don't see that happening in the next month.
Now, and whether or not, you know, the properties up at Colonial and Tree Line, they may have been a value put on them, but you got to have somebody willing to buy them and to be able to utilize them to get that. So whether or not we could actually recoup any of that is an unknown.
Yeah.
So I'd like to make a motion to do nothing.
You don't need a
I think
motion.
let's cogitate on this a little
You don't
bit.
need a motion.
If I might
But
add
yeah,
one,
this is great information.
one question.
Yes, go
to
ahead.
it, Becky, if this was done, and I'm not advocating one way or the other, but if it was done, my question would be, can we make our roads private?
Oh, that's a question.
Sorry. Listening to flooding. What was the question?
It's flooding, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be,
Bob was asking if this would make our roads private if we paid
If we
off.
could make
Yeah.
our roads,
Why not?
If you tried to pay this off,
Yeah.
because the district still owns the roads regardless if you owe the money or not.
it would take
Now, what I would
suggest.
you continue to watch is the AGO request, Attorney General's opinion request that Stony Brook HOA in conjunction with the board has requested to see what comes of that AGO.
Okay.
Because they're questioning whether we can turn the roads over directly to the HOA. The only caveat I would see the difference between you all and Pelican, you all and Stony Brook, I'm sorry, you are Pelican, the golf club.
Yeah.
Right.
It's always a challenge.
Okay, well, it was just one other thing to try and consider, that's all.
Yeah. Lots of flavors to
In
this.
my opinion, or I guess none of that could occur while the bond is still encumbering the property.
Yes, absolutely.
It would take further steps and things to occur for that to happen, but the first thing that would have to happen is for the bond to be paid off.
And
Now,
Chelsea,
whether we do it now or in 5 years,
Yeah.
to your point, Chelsea, why would the golf club impact our ability to have private roads?
Because they're a private business entity, whereas Stony Brook, they're only property owners in there, only residents that are in there. They don't have a golf course business.
Right.
So I don't know that for a fact, but that is what I would assume, but we all know assuming
I'd have
does.
to look at them as a resident of Pelican Preserve.
there would have to be some sort of accommodation.
Right,
if
we'd have
we
to
had
deal with
an
the dock
event and
declarations.
thing.
There's a lot of downstream activity that we
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
need to look at.
But that is a goal if you could do it.
Yeah, let's everybody kind of keep thinking this a noodle on it and see what else you can come up with on that. But that's excellent work, Ed. Thank you. Okay, so then we're going to look at our customer care data. It looks like we haven't had a whole lot of additional requests that have come through from the last month. I'm wondering if we're getting a lot now.
Well, if you, actually, if you look, if you look, we had, if Chelsea, can you go back up or down, whatever, to that charts with the blue lines? There were a total of 24 requests from January through June. We had 12 just in May. So half of the requests that have come in so far this year were just in May for Public Works. So that the light blue line is from when we started tracking it on the 22nd of January through the 1st of June. And the dark blue line is included in that number, but that's what came in just in May. So you can see that the volume, it's a pretty
Yeah, it
big
did
chunk
go
of
up.
the calls so far to date.
They were all about ponds and all the weed mats on top, right?
No,
Thanks
they're
for
just
educating
different.
folks.
It's different things. I think the project has stuff to do with it too. You know, the ponds project, people have questions. And I'm sure we had a bunch now with the flooding.
So this is Marty. Have we sent out our refrigerator magnets and flyers yet?
We did not mail them out. That was not the direction. The direction was to order them and we would hand them out over time. So we have them.
Mm.
I don't have them with me.
The
But-
copy that I saw,
I
it looked like
took a
it was not
bunch.
cut.
I-
They looked like they were off center.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
didn't notice.
I just saw
I didn't
one.
look
On
at
the
them that
magnet?
closely. I took a bunch to the coffee with Adam yesterday and I gave them to Yanni. So she has them in the office. There's a bunch over there too.
Okay, well, let me take a look at how we can help distribute them.
We've got 2 boxes of flyers, 2 big boxes of flyers and 2 boxes of magnets. So
You said the
But even
magnets
in the
did look
Brocky
good.
Center,
Pardon me?
in the Brocky Center on the island. where-
Yeah, we could do that, or, at least announce it at one of the meetings. I do believe the information has been distributed in Pelican via email. I think it has.
Okay.
I'll have to
Okay.
double check, but I thought Adriana got something out, just announcing how you could stay better in touch with.
I know in your last newsletter, there was a snippet
Right,
in there.
yeah, and we're trying to do a better job of making sure we're providing an opportunity for Gateway to put information into our various correspondence.
Excellent. All right.
So this is Marty. So now we've guaranteed that they are in the Brokey Center under Yanni's desk. How do we get them out into the
That's what I'm talking
foyer
about. I'm
area?
gonna follow up on that and see how we get them to people. I always worry about putting things in the foyers where anybody can grab as many as they want. Because there'll be 50 on this guy's refrigerator and none on mine. There won't be any on mine anyhow.
Well, I just don't,
Wow, but
I just don't want somebody to pick up all the flyers and throw them in the trash.
I understand. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Any
Nobody would do that.
anytime that a district staff person has gone over to Pelican, we've taken a handful of them over to disseminate. So
Thank you.
I'll color a picture. You can put it under your magnet,
All
Tom.
right. I'll make sure Jim knows what he's doing when he gets back and gets a report from the board.
All right. Anything else on our customer care? All right, let's move on. We've got a half hour before we have to say goodbye to Sharon.
Catch a flight.
She's got to catch a flight, so we have to get through this.
Hopefully plane's coming.
Yeah. Yep. So going into our budget. I think as everybody is aware, we came out with a high water mark of single family at 15.2% and multifamily at 16.5. And that, to my mind, it's not acceptable. We have to do something to bring that down. I think nobody is naive enough to believe that we don't have any increases, but I'd like to see what else we could do. And to that end, I'd like to say, Ed, what have you come up with? I'm looking at my money guy.
Well, if you look on your screen, just before we start this, that Laura's got on there, the results of the audit and the transfers from unspent 23 into the individual operating reserves and the capital, which basically match what I had on the sheet that you saw before. If you go to the last page, there's what I've got in front of me,
Oh.
or what you've got in front of you, I put together. Couple things are happening this year that weren't there, different from last year and last year each of the groups, there were the different O&M budget categories. And it was just the O&M out of the 002 operating budget for Pelican. And then there was this list of over $1 million of projects, some of them capital, some of them duplicative, that were unfunded. And my understanding is that Pelican really only has one fund, the 002. So we're in this budget, they've included line items within the budget, which is, on the screen for capital projects. So the 002 budget that was approved included O&M line items and capital line items. But then and there's also a line item that we didn't discuss the last time we were together, that we need to fund the surplus cost of the new admin building, 14% of the additional cost of the admin building.
265,000 or something. Like
Yeah,
that.
out of non-bond funds. So in the budget that was approved, it had, on the last page at version 3, there's basically 4.5 million of O&M and capital, but then it had a non-assessment funding of 781,000, which that 781,000 it was the cost of the office building plus all the capital projects that were in that budget. So basically saying through the assessment, we're only going to fund the O&M line items. We're going to fund the capital projects through reserve capital or some other reserve funds. And so with that 780,000, that left basically a 12.5% increase. We're adding in this, there's a 23 bond series that Pelican is being assessed 14% of the new office building under a bond, being financed under a bond. So that adds 155,000 to the assessments, which gets to that 3.9, almost $4 million, or 15.47, which results in this 16% for multifamily and 15% increase. So I went through, and this is the yellow highlighted items are my what if. And I've got this all on the spreadsheet. We need to start making some changes. I think part of our challenge is we have this meeting, we have the July meeting, which some people are going to not be here, and there might be a question whether or not we actually have a quorum in July. And then the August meeting is like the week before where the board actually has to approve the budget that assessments are made on. So we have this meeting to make changes, reductions, maybe July if we have a meeting in July, if we have a quorum in July, and a last ditch effort maybe in August, which that would be a mass scramble on everybody's part. I can walk through.
Hold on, let me.
Is that right?
Well, no, let me pull it up on the screen so everybody online can see what you're talking through. Just give me just a
Oh, okay.
second. I had to scan it and send it to myself. And then I had to send it to Laura too, so she could see it. Sorry for interrupting. Crazy for just a second. There it comes. Come on. Oh, all right. Turn your head side. No, I'm just kidding. I'll rotate it. They're not gonna let me rotate. Are you kidding me?
You have to upgrade.
Are you kidding me right now? All right, well,
Yeah, you can't change it with the version you have.
great.
You want me to, do
Let
you want me to send it to you? I
Oh,
fixed
no.
it on my side.
I'll do it on my side. On my
Okay.
laptop. Thanks, though. Sorry, y'all.
Well, while they're doing that, you had indicated the 45,000 for the boardwalk parking.
Yeah.
That can go.
Right, it's already.
Yeah, I talked to
Okay,
Doug
got
about that.
that.
I already took it off version 4.
Thank you.
I don't know how it got there. I think KW put it there a few years ago on Capitol. The Ponds Group didn't have that.
I just want to make sure. That was an easy one.
I guess part of my
Yeah,
concern is. I
that's
think
already
there's
gone.
been-
In version 4, it's gone.
Okay.
I know, but I think some of those changes at this point should come from PPAC.
Well, it came from Ponds and it's their budget, so I took it off.
All right, you guys can
I'm
just
with you.
reiterate if
Right.
you agree with that
Yeah,
or not.
I
So,
think.
all right, I finally got it. Thank you, technology.
Yeah.
All right, can those online, can you see it?
Yes, looks good.
Yep.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay. I mean, the first area was the engineering fees, and last year had a $90,000 amount. The version 3, the high water had a 90,000, and I said I thought we could at least cut that 50,000 out of that. I don't know if that's with the new policy. Can we go lower than that? Because we've only spent 2,000 this year, and most of the engineering should be associated with a capital project and charged to
Well,
the capital project.
Well, is this tied to the shared operational expenses? Is this your 14%? Because
No, this is
This is-
our
No, that's
operating
not. That's
expense.
separate. Yeah, that's
Okay.
for other things that they have, like their one-off projects where if they do a TA with Tetra Tech for something that doesn't go well against, because none of the committees actually have engineering under them individually. It just rolls all up into there. So that would be any engineering for any projects that they do in Pelican would go under that.
So you, as a suggestion, that would not be the first line item that I would cut. Simply for the fact that, like Bob's favorite saying, you're getting ready to dive into the bowl of spaghetti of irrigation. And that's gonna take a lot of time between engineering and attorney.
And I don't see us attacking that in the next 6 months or a year even. I see us getting information, but I don't see I haven't heard any appetite for trying to move forward with changes on that.
There's not necessarily
I-
changes, it's just
Yeah,
just
I agree with
identifying.
Ed. Charles, we've spent so little money in this in reality, and even tackling the irrigation issues, 40,000 of that 150 is going to be more than enough, in my opinion, based on the last 14 years. So I agree with cutting it.
The professional fees of $60,000, my understanding is that was the contract with the community association, according to the notes on that.
So that would have been the money
no,
that
KW.
or KW.
Right.
Yeah.
So I basically took that to zero because it.
Yeah, we've already pulled the Band-Aid off. We're just gonna keep going with it.
Laura, I thought in our budget, we had that under other fees and services and not under operating expenses.
No, the professional fees goes there for the KW stuff. It's there.
The other
It used to be
fees
under
were
other,
actually
but
for
it's moved, we moved it up to the top
surplus.
because it is an operating expense now. So that's where it got moved. We did that in 24.
Um,
Keep going.
just, Doug, do you do?
Question.
Come to the mic. We want to make sure your beautiful voice is on.
You
Doug
can't,
Zander
you can't
on
hear.
Subcommittee, I just, when you once mentioned engineering fees, where would the Tetra Tech, the 40,000 year to date we spent so far for Pond 36, is that in that line? item?
It would be charged to that specific project, like Ed alluded to.
Okay.
Engineering to a specific project should be charged to the project.
Okay, that's all.
That would just be for, that line item, in my mind, would just be for general overall engineering type things. Maybe if
Well,
we
well, and
wanted
related to
Tetra
projects.
Tech.
yeah, related to projects with Tetra Tech, because we do have some services coming to us with their 14%.
And the other.
This is Marty. So why do we have a line item for paid time off buyout?
Because that staff has PTO buyouts that we do twice a year for July and,
So they don't have to take all the vacation time, they can cash them in?
yes, they can cash it in only twice a year, up to a certain dollar amount. Or no lower than no lower than a certain PTO time.
And this is just our 14% of that.
That would be whatever.
No, the 14% are in the admin services and the operating admin services, which I didn't put all the line items in.
Okay.
On mine.
Staff are more valuable to me here than on vacation.
So it's not duplicative to have.
Don't let
like,
her
the
fool
payroll
you.
and
She just
salary?
always takes off so that we can't. That's how it works.
So I was saying it's not duplicative to have this in here as well as in the operational.
No,
That is-
the
that's
ones that are
separate.
the operating. The
Yeah,
ones that are in the
the-
operating. Are
That's your
full-time.
maintenance people down in the operating expenses, the stuff in the, if you look at the, you'd have to look at the full budget. If you look at the staffing sheet underneath the Pelican column, there's some that fall under administrative. And there's percentages that fall underneath operations. So it just depends on which column. You won't see it there. It's on the staffing. It's not in their budget. It's in the boards. But in the full budget, that's why it's broken out that way. It's not 14%. It just depends on the position and what percent of that position is allocated to Pelican, and then is it allocated as administrative or operational? So that's
Okay.
now we're going to calculate out the 14%.
Here, 30 minutes.
While we're
Go down.
I know, but while we're on salaries, can I just ask for information? How come we went from 57 to 85? Is that the pickup of the old O&M expense?
We've also added an employee.
That's the O&M, okay?
Staff is dedicating quite a bit more time than they did last year to Pelican because of doing away with the O&M
Right,
on
that's-
top of
just-
subcommittees, et
Just for
cetera.
clarity, that's what I thought it was. We'll make sure. Thank you.
Keep going to your,
Okay.
So on your spreadsheet that is attached to the agenda, you also have a typo on the third page. for
Where?
Board of Supervisors and PPAC. We're meeting agendas and minutes prep. You have PRAC.
Oh.
And you passed it,
sorry. Oh,
passed it.
Down.
you're killing me.
There it is. PRAC. Board of Supervisors on PRAC meeting minutes. It is meeting minutes and minutes prep.
Chelsea, it's in the
Board of
notes.
Oh, okay. I'm not worried about the notes.
Oh, okay.
The notes won't be posted at the end.
Right.
Marty, I fixed it for version 4.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Thanks for holding us true.
Under safety and security, we had a street sweeping line item was added in the high water mark at 98.4. And I think through some conversations that could be reduced to 15,
Yes.
which is a requirement that we sweep the streets. So that's
So-
a reduction there.
So when we put the high water mark in, just so everybody knows, we were in the middle of soliciting quotes for a new vendor. Pricing came back and got us, we took the old pricing, so we got the new pricing, that's 15,000. We're required to do it per our National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit, our stormwater permit. Any road that is curbed and guttered, we are required to sweep. Right now, we're only doing Pelican Preserve Boulevard. We want to get the rest of your community and $15,000 to do it, and we'll be compliant with our permit.
Perfect.
And just to help explain where that giant number came from, that was calculated using the amount of roadway we're gonna have to clean going forward based on the per square foot or whatever calculations for what you're paying now. That's why, that's where that original number came from. But the quotes have come in much lower.
And the capital trailer for the swirly, that 4,500 can come out now because we just approved. And that was just for a trailer, I think, with the water tanks and everything else. That's where,
I'm hoping we're gonna come in
Yeah.
around 50.
so I just took that out of my spreadsheet. The street lighting, when Dean and I worked on this originally, the idea was that we would fund there was an estimated 450,000 upfront costs for street lighting. So we said, let's just divide that into three and put it into 3 different years. Well, I think with the way this new budgeting will work, we should actually put that 450 in whatever year we're going to spend it. We don't know when that's going to be. So at this point,
We could take,
my recommendation was to take it out.
Yep.
There's 40,000 for the speed calming, the speed hump. That's probably,
I think it's 20, isn't it 20,000?
that was the first engineering estimate. I think it came back and had to go back in. It's still for permitting, but then there's engineering costs associated with it. So I left that where it was. I mean, we could reduce it down to 25 or so if we wanted to. Landscaping, there was there was a capital item for monument lighting, and that was in that plan for multi-year to redo the lighting. My suggestion was since landscaping is typically running a surplus, that we take that out and just ask Mark to absorb that in his other maintenance activities with monuments.
Yeah, Mark had indicated that he felt up to $100,000 could come out of his budget and he could absorb that.
Wow. That's good.
So I don't know how we want to,
So
Wait,
on Mark's landscaping, he's fiscal year 2023, his actual had 61,528 for plant replacements. And fiscal year 2025 budget is 103. Why don't we move that back to like 50,000?
I think he would be okay with that.
Which one?
The plant
Plan
replacement.
replacement's got 103, drop it to 50.
103,000?
Yep,
Yeah, that's what's on there, drop it to 50.
then figure it out.
Take 50 out of that?
And then he's got another line item that says other landscaping. New plant benches and flags. That's 80,000.
They gotta get some benches and stuff on the seating around the ponds,
Well, they've already put in the bench,
but all of them are in.
the three
Well,
that they had.
What we,
Boards, yeah.
and other landscaping, I'll drop that to 30.
So I
That
understand,
takes,
benches are like $10,000 a bench. Because it's not the bench, it's all the ADA compliance.
what I've done is drop the plant replacement to 53 and the other landscaping to 30, which is the 100,000
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
plus. But I would put it back to Mark to say, hey, where do you want that 100,000?
Yeah, I'm sure
Let him.
he'll be able to.
Just it,
Adjust what
but-
he needs.
well,
But
if you take it out of there, he can adjust it during his subcommittee meetings.
Sure.
yeah, but he could even provide us recommendations that we can make between now and August, the approval and.
Well, and keep in mind, there's no change here in the contractual landscaping maintenance, and that is going out to bid.
Right.
Yeah.
So that,
That may,
we hope it goes down, but
You never know.
you never
I
know.
doubt it.
Yeah.
That's mostly labor, so. And then waterway management, we took out the boardwalk parking, which is Doug has already put in.
Yeah.
And what I also did was took the 350 for funding capital reserves to zero.
And what was your logic there?
If we've got 3 million in capital reserves, if we're doing all the projects within
The O&M?
the O&M budget, just 002, there's no real reason to keep adding to the capital reserves until such time as we identify some
Major.
major
Bill.
big project need that we might draw that down. Because right now, the way we're funding the capital through this 002 budget, we're not drawing on those reserves.
I hear what you're saying.
And then we still have the 265,000 outlay for the additional cost of the admin building.
Which again, we hope the bids come back less.
Yeah,
Put it in high.
So what I've done in here is then said, okay, all the non-assessment funding at the workshop, Mark had said that, well, rather than reducing his budget, he would rather give up his 23 surplus. So if we transferred the landscaping 23 surplus, back to our general fund, that would add 294,000.
Okay.
And with those changes, my spreadsheet says that drops our general increase to 4.21%, which would be basically 4% for single family and 5.1% for multifamily, approximately.
Which I can't help but believe that would be palatable. I mean, nobody's happy about it, but
4% takes, happy about 4% today's market,
yeah.
Mhm.
and the building going up, that's pretty good.
And the other thing that we could do, I mean, if we wanted to keep the landscape reserves a little bit stronger, we could pull the building from capital.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Mark is going to be running a surplus this year of maybe a couple $100,000. So he will have a surplus going into 25 from 24.
So wait, just so I understand something, it's 4%. The numbers at the bottom of the page were broken, showing the multifamily and single family. Show an
8 and 7.
8 and 7.
That's not his up-to-date one that we.
As you
Oh,
say.
without making,
Without,
Changes we just made.
okay.
yeah, basically the 100,000 out that we took out of
And
landscaping
the
there
40.
and a couple other adjustments, minor ones that basically drops.
So it brings it to what? Ed, was it 5% and
5 and
5%, 4,
4.
5 and 4?
before.
No, it brings it now to 5% and 4%.
Yeah.
Multifamily and single.
These are approximate because Stephen Bloom's got this
No,
mathematical.
it's an amazing
thing.
spreadsheet. But
um,
if you guys agreed with those changes, Laura can plug those in and give you projected where you guys would fall.
it's more directional than absolute.
Right, sure,
Yeah.
just to get, but I think this,
Yeah.
I mean, this achieves what we wanted to achieve without cutting our services.
So
That's the.
this is
important-
Marty. I have a question for Doug. Can we spread out our pond bank improvements? Because right now you have 269,000 for ponds 43, 54, 40, 54, 47, and 48. And those are the next ones after pond 36. Can we spread that out and lower that dollar amount?
I thought that was spreading it out.
Yeah, it was larger before. That's the other thing.
Good job, Carol.
Thank you.
It was larger before, but I don't think we could do those ponds for that amount of money. At the current rate, well, what we did 36 at, if you look at it, 36 caught, I had projected with some of the information we had in prior projects, about $40 a foot, okay? When it's all said and done, it's gonna be closer to 120 a foot. Okay, put things in perspective. And so some of it was estimation problem, but some of it was a bid process and stuff like that. I would say though, I don't understand exactly how we could maybe exempt the unspent reserves or unspent money that we have in the unspent budget money. That particular money has already been assessed. Right? That was from prior years. It's already got an assessment on it. If we spend that money, move it over instead of spending budget, that reduces what we're gonna pay taxes on, at Valorium taxes on in that calendar year. You could do the same thing with capital. Anytime you use capital, that's already been assessed. So anytime you use those things instead of stuff that was in O&M, in the O&M current calendar budget, you can reduce that number. So going back to your thing, I could reduce that number and then take some of the unspent reserves and bring it over, and it would reduce the ad valorem percentage. So you can play, I don't call it playing games, but it's spending money where the tax has already been
Assessed.
paid on, instead of spending money that you're gonna tax the people again on.
So Laura's off the cuff calcs based on the Ed's version
Oh.
is approximately 9% for multi and 8% single. That's what you'd get down to. That has not been verified, but that's just,
Why is
Her-
that so often?
I don't know. I can't speak to either person's math,
No.
but that is the spreadsheet that we use. So it would need to be verified, but that's just off the cuff. So if
That's why
you,
you get another shot at it. That's why.
Bob, we can hear you.
Yeah, I said that's another shot, why you get another shot in June. But to answer Marty's question on the ponds, generally speaking, it's not a voluntary effort, Marty. When the escarpment gets to be so high, it becomes mandatory that we must do something. And if we get the regulatory agents, they'll demand everything be done today. But as long as we're doing it incrementally, but showing progress, they give us some latitude. If that answers your question, you can't spread them out anymore. You can always consolidate them and spend more. But I wouldn't recommend we plan out. And keep in mind also that when Gateway's doing theirs, they're currently somewhere in the neighborhood of 27 million. So we've been doing it very efficiently. I wouldn't want to jeopardize that.
All right, I'm gonna take a quick break here because Sharon needs to.
Can I, really quick, she missed the street sweeping adjustment, so that puts it to 6.1 and the single is 5.4. That's the math.
Very
So
good.
happy when you work from home.
Sharon, for your work.
Yeah,
Really
well,
appreciate
thank you
your
for the
thoughtfulness.
opportunity. I've enjoyed being here, learning a lot of what I did not know. And I appreciate you guys putting up with my inexperience, but I have enjoyed being part of it.
Yeah, we've
So-
appreciated your insight.
So I hate to run, but I do.
But you do want to run.
Hopefully to catch a flight.
Hopefully your flight's on time.
Safe
It is. I
travels.
looked, I checked.
Okay,
It
great,
says
great.
Getting here. I'm not sure if it'll leave, but it's getting here.
Okay,
So-
good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thanks for your
Thank you,
service.
Sharon.
Okay, so we're closer to your numbers now with that change.
So this is Marty again.
That's Marty.
So getting back to Doug, if we reduce his pond bank improvement, he has the money to take it out of reserves.
Unspent, I won't call it capital reserve, the unspent money that from prior years.
Unspent money from prior
His-
years.
his-
So why wouldn't we reduce that number if he's got the money banked already that we've already paid for?
He does not have the full amount to cover it. Right.
No, I don't have the full amount covered, and we have to do some math. But we could reduce that number by what's in the unspent reserves. You could do the same thing with landscape. I mean, that's money where taxes have already been paid on.
Right.
If you're really concerned about the percentage increase.
I mean, if you look at this sheet,
Which one?
this is the one I handed out
Oh,
earlier.
okay.
Landscaping has 294,000, and that's what I had proposed. That was our 23 unspent budget. Ponds has, at this point, 136,000.
So if they've got 136,000, why don't we reduce that pond bank improvement by 50,000? And then they can take it out of reserves or the unspent monies.
Well, what we do is leave it where it is and just add using some of the pond reserves to fund the budget.
Well,
Leave his line item where it is,
Well,
but
we'd have to reduce his line item to reduce our taxes.
no,
And then he can move the money.
no, Marty, there's a non-assessment funding at the bottom of the thing, and we can add
50.
pond reserves of $100,000 and use 100,000 as pond reserves to fund the budget. Rather than, which is
It's the
reducing,
same thing.
which is what you're saying.
Okay.
The net result's the same thing. It would reduce your ad valorem by $100,000.
Right.
Correct.
And that's workable from your perspective.
Same to me. I got the same. The only thing is that you don't have that whatever safety net there.
Right.
And I might have to go knock on Mark's door and say, I need some of your unspent reserves, but yes.
We're getting rid of his already.
But I think it's a way to get through where it's a challenging year.
Yeah.
It's a way that you can make it more, right?
Right.
And it's not a game. It's you're using money that's already been taxed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point.
I just want to make a note, Ed, your ponds reserve number is different from what we have from the reserve number that we got from Infomark. We got $236,294 in the 2023 carry forward.
That was.
And
So-
we spent on-
Right, but 2 months ago, we approved transferring 100,000 out of that to his,
right.
to this year.
So then you're at
there's,
136. Okay.
Right.
Right. I always said you could use some of that, Chelsea. You
Yeah.
could use some of that to reduce the number.
So move $50,000 into your.
I'm fine with that.
So use of $50,000 carry forward and then reduce that line item.
Right.
Yes.
Or keep that line item, but show the offset below, Laura.
The offset will, it'll still be 804 with the budget. It's just that 50 of it is not taxed.
are you saying only do 50,000, not 100? Is that what?
Let's do 50. Let's not hamstring him. quite so
That's what I
much.
said.
Yeah, that Marty looks now for.
So Laura can put
Way to
those
go.
numbers in and have those for your next meeting, so that way you can go dive further deep.
And I can,
Off the
I
deep
can
end.
send you.
Yeah.
I've been making changes here too, so we can.
Okay,
Yes, yeah, definitely.
can I just recap what I heard? If I got this all correctly, and so I made all the changes that you guys brought up today. I have in the operations part at the top, the operating expenses, reducing the engineering to 40,000. Removing the professional services, so that'll be 0. Street sweeping is gonna go down to 15,000. We're removing the trailer for the swirly. Removing the street light replacement of 150, and the speed calming devices, there was talk of reducing that to 40, to 20, or are we leaving that at 40?
I think we were gonna leave that at 40.
We're leaving it at 40. Okay, so I had made that change. I thought I heard somebody say change that to 40 or to 20. So I need to put that back to 40. So that's gonna affect the numbers. I have a couple other ones here. Let me just quick fix this before where'd you go? Safety and security, speed calming, 40. Okay, and then I have under landscape, and I realize Mark can move this around, but at least this accomplishes the $100,000 deduction for this point. Is to reduce the plant replacement to 53,000, other landscaping to 30,000. And then in the bottom, you're removing your capital reserve.
Right.
It's making that,
and
oh,
I
I
had-
missed the capital monument lighting. Are we getting rid of that too? I missed that.
Yes.
So that's going
And
to
the
0.
boardwalk-
You already took care of the boardwalk. Yep, the boardwalk parking, that's gone. And then the reserve for capital projects is going to 0. And then the capital outlay admin will stay at 265, 480, and we're gonna use that number plus 50,000 for ponds as your offset number at the bottom. So 315, 480 will be use of carry forward.
Say that last part again.
So the amount that you guys are gonna use from carry forward will be that 265, 480 plus the 50,000 you were just talking about for Doug's pond projects to help offset the assessment.
What we were, well, I think what we were going to do was use the
You charging that?
landscaping reserves, 294 carry forward.
The
And then
unspent.
ponds of 50 for
Let me
Right,
ask
so you're
this
gonna
real
take
quick.
$50,000. It doesn't matter. It can come from anywhere. It's just carry forward. So you want to use carry forward. Let me rephrase it. So you want to use carry forward. So you want to use carry forward to cover the cost of the admin building, which is the cost of the admin building, which is the 265, 480. That echo was horrible. And then $50,000 for ponds. So it's a total of 315, 480 of carry forward. 480 of carry forward.
No.
Let me ask. So you're cutting Mark's budget by 100,000.
Yep.
And you're taking away his reserves.
No.
Those two.
23 reserves.
The the current reserves.
I can't hear you guys.
Okay.
Please speak in the mic.
Can you hear me?
So
Okay.
Yes, now I can hear you.
Yes, now
I can hear you.
I just want to confirm. So you're cutting his budget by 100 and you're taking his reserves out.
I don't think we discussed his reserves. We just discussed line item plant replacement, reducing 103 to 53. And then other landscaping, we cut also to 50,000.
30.
Okay.
30? Is that
Yeah,
it?
you took
30?
50 off there.
Right, that's,
So that'll reduce you
Okay.
the 100.
that's correct.
What I said in here, what I put in here was using Mark's 2023 surplus
Mhm.
of
unspent.
294 unspent surplus from 23 as non-assessment funding. And at our workshop, he said he would rather do that than and keep his budget flat. Peggy said he thought he could reduce his budget of 100,000. He will still have, going into this budget year,
The 24
a
carry.
24
Four,
carry
okay,
over.
so you're eliminating his on, based on your spreadsheet. 294, 265.
Right.
So he'll theoretically be at 0 at the start of the fiscal. We have to audit all the numbers, and his 24, what he doesn't spend this year, will be his carry forward. So you're gonna put 294 back into just your general reserves.
Now we can change that. That's just,
Yeah.
that's what my
Okay.
initial recommendation was from
Okay.
the workshop discussion.
Okay, so
and
what
such.
I need for budgeting purposes, I don't care where it comes from, which bucket of carry forward you take it from. I just need to take it from. I just need a total. So if I'm understanding correctly, you want to use carry forward funds to offset the admin building construction and 50,000 of Doug's stuff. So the total is 315, 480. I don't care what bucket it comes out of at this point. I just need to know that you're going to use carry forward. We can decide which bucket to pull it from later. I just need to know the total.
My recommendation was that the carry forward with the 50,000 from ponds would be a total of 344, 265.
Laura, is that your number?
Where does the 344? No, I don't get that. Where's the 344, 265 come from? I have 265, 480 plus 50, which is 315, 480.
Forget the 245.
Look at the 294, 265 and landscape op reserve for 2023.
Okay, then we
And add
can't,
50.
that's what's throwing the confusion in. We need to look at the actual projected budget. There's no, I don't have a budget for carry forward for landscape or reserves or whatever. I just need to know. Bottom line, if you can pull up the sheet that's in the budget, the one that I did, and look at that, please, and this will help. Because this is convoluting things. So scroll down to the bottom, that number right there, that 781,280, that was previously to cover the capital projects and the shortfall for the admin building, which we've already adjusted, and so we know that that number is a lot less. So what I'm looking at is that 265,480, just short, a little bit above that, where it says capital outlay, admin building construction. So you want to use carry forward to help offset that cost. I don't care where the carry forward comes from at this point. We can sort that out later. It doesn't matter. You're just going to use carry forward. And then in addition to that $265,480, there's $50,000 of stuff that you want to use carry forward for to help offset the cost of the pond bank improvements. That's a total of $315,480.
All right, Laura, that is not what, they're not talking about that number. They're simply talking about the landscape number that Mark has, the 294 number here. That
Yep.
number plus 50. That's what they want to use.
Okay.
So we're just moving money.
Same thing.
So the 294, 265 plus 50,000.
So just use 344.
Yeah.
344.
Right.
And so that should be here.
344, 265.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Listen, I don't care where it comes from at this point. That doesn't matter for the budget. We can figure that out later. I just need a number.
Okay. All right. We got it. All right. What else do you guys have? So we have 4 minutes.
All right. Are we all comfortable with this?
For now, not approving anything.
We don't need
Still got
any.
a couple months.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
And I will not be here in July. I will be in Alaska. I know.
Will anybody-
Jealous.
Will anybody else not be here in July?
I'll be here in July.
Will you
Marty?
be here in July?
I'm double checking, but I
Okay.
believe I am.
What is the July meeting?
That's what I'm.
July
Looks like
11th.
so.
11. Yes, I'm here.
I'm here.
I'm here.
All right, we got a
Yeah.
quorum.
All right.
Looks like we have a quorum.
No,
Next.
trust whatever you guys do.
You want
Oh,
to
you know.
through the last
Yeah, let's
slide?
just go through. Okay, so we've got, we don't have to do anything official with what the budget she's got it.
So
We're
as
good.
long as you all are all in agreement
Right.
with those changes that were made,
We are.
everybody's in agreement? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So on your next agenda, Laura can have that version posted
Okay.
for you guys.
Great.
You got
Now,
a
if
yes out of me.
I know, we're. so
I got your head.
quick.
Yeah, I got
You
that.
got a
Yeah?
yes out of me.
What does Marty Mantefeld say? Okay. Next.
Okay, so then we're moving on. Sharon, as we know, is resigning, and so we're gonna have an opening. And so I would say go out to your communities, see your people that might be interested and
So considering she actually resigned effective today, we'll start advertising for this position.
perfect.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends, but tell your colleagues.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
Oh, this is Marty.
Marty.
So, do we have to get any training like the Board of Supervisors has to go through because of the law on July 1st?
You all are not necessarily required to take that. We're working through the logistics of seeing if that opportunity is available through the Florida Association of Special Districts. Tony is also working on a policies and procedures handbook that will be on a draft version, will be on the next board meeting next Thursday, which will be applicable to all committees and subcommittees as well as the board. And so we'll work on some training. There's going to be some procurement CCNA training is done as well. So
Would you like to step up?
Hi, Carol Pankow. I think also there needed to be a discussion about the nexus of the amount between what we projected the administration building to be and what it sounds like the bids are gonna come in much higher.
Mhm.
And whether you want to pay that out over time, in other words, assess it every year, or assess it for the next year, or pay it out of your reserves. And I think the CDD board would like some direction from you guys as to whether you feel you would like to pay it out.
And this is in addition to the 265?
No, that is.
No, that would be the 265
Yeah.
number. So do you want to pay it out now, which you have reserves to do it, obviously, and pay it in one lump sum? Or are you going to levy for it for next year?
We were gonna use the carry forward. The carry
We're gonna pay it one time.
Yeah.
Reserve.
One time next
So
year?
we understood. That's right, in our budget.
Would you consider paying it this year out of your reserves?
What would that
Why?
gain us?
Chelsea, how does it help us with the money for the administration building and moving forward?
I don't think that there would be any benefit to paying it now. I
Oh,
wait.
We're not
Okay.
talking about the bond portion.
No, we're
It's-
talking about the delta, and the bids
Yeah.
are gonna be coming back hopefully July 16th, and it'll go in front of the board August 8th. That's what the timeline is right now. So
Please show restraint.
by then,
Okay. Okay,
hopefully we'll have a better idea of what that number is. Hoping lower.
well, we
Very
can
good.
pray.
All right.
Thank you.
Can we have any other board comments? Anybody?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Marty?
Second.
Yes. All right, second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
just canceled the ball game.
They did.
Just now.